Hey guys, it's Chow with Nerdom and the Lazy DMs channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to world build. This is going to be a multi-part series where we try to break it down and help you guys slowly build up cities in your world. But today we want to touch on a slight introduction as well as a method we call our rules of three. So when it comes to world building, general method of mine tends to be start small. Don't overthink what you're doing. Don't overtrap or over try to sell what you're doing. Make it cohesive. Make things make sense to you as well as your players. If you try to introduce too much too quick or try to foreshadow a major event for players that aren't vested yet, it's not going to feel right to them. It's not going to translate right. And players are going to forget a lot of those details, and it's probably going to mess up both people on both ends. So my biggest prep that I can say is try to leave off a lot of the foreshadowing details for your world until the second or third session when players are a little more invested. When it comes to designing and detailing your world, generally what I want to do is design a small city, a small town, something that I can grasp or tie my players to, something that I can build off from there. And one of the things you'll find out as a new DM or any DM building a new setting or new world is that when you make a small location, your players are slowly going to populate that location passively themselves through the creation of different NPCs that might be through their background, through their interactions, through small people in towns that you never thought would be made to be in a bigger role are suddenly going to be that. People that you never planned for are suddenly going to be have to be named NPCs that are going to flesh up. And you're going to see that your players create a more cohesive world with you, and that's part of the big storytelling element and appeal of D&D, honestly. So run with that. Let your players do a little bit of the legwork there when it comes to designing things. Generally, what we follow is what I call the rule of three. Design 3 things in a town. Ask 3 questions about your town and find out 3 defining things that are going to make that thing unique. Generally keeping things to just what we call the rule of 3, or very quick, stupid questions that define characteristics for towns, worlds, characters, and NPCs make it a lot easier for you to recall as a DM. And the reason for that is I have massive notes in my OneNote describing all my worlds, my gods, the details, different events that happen, past campaigns, notes from my last campaign, things my players missed, things I missed. And when you go into those notes, it's very hard to come across quickly when a player asks a question, especially in the heat of a game or something like combat. And you're going to find that comes up a lot. So you want your reaction to that to feel natural, especially to your players. And if you keep it simple in your notes or you're defining laws for them, it makes it easier to come across. So, for instance, we're going to create a fictional town. We're going to call this town Avon. So, 3 things I might ask about this town are, what's this town's defining quality? What's 3 things that makes this town different than other towns? Well, 1, we're going to make it so that Avon's not a major kingdom. The person ruling Avon or the ruling body for Avon isn't going to be a king. We're going to make them subservient to someone else. That way, on this side, that when we go into the campaign, what my players do or the fallout or chaotic bits that they may cost early aren't going to be as severe as if they were in a major kingdom as opposed to a small outpost town. The second defining bit we can make about Avon, knowing that it's a small town, is we can make it a farming village where its main exports being crops, vegetables, and small supplies that might be sold to villages and the larger kingdom. Things like cordage from trees, different weaves that might be made, different quality crafts, as well as the crops that are generally yielded. That makes this kind of a small bustling hub of people coming in and out. That can also be a tie-in for players, new NPCs, and other things. On the third trait, we can also make it to where Avon might have a secret black market that's underground. Potentially, we can have it to where one of the pubs is running different fighting rings down there, and that this black market is known for gladiatory pits, but only to people that we find worthy and that the bartender thinks is trusting enough. So with that, we have a few defining traits when it comes to this town of Avon. The next thing we're going to ask is, who are 3 major NPCs that might populate this town that our players can interact with? Well, obviously, with any town or kingdom, we're going to need a leader. So, knowing that this isn't going to be a king, we're going to put a subservient lord. We're going to call him a baron. Let's go with Baron Aelin. On the same rule of 3, we can write quick 3 notes for any NPCs or character that we come across. So what we can do is jot down 3 quick notes also for Baron Aelin in another section when we come across them. We can write down different notes as though his relationship with a king, if he has any advisors, different things with his kids, different personality traits he might have, as though he speaks very gruff and sickly at the same time. Or that he might be a little resentful over the town and that they don't understand my power. You can take a few little notes on there and also describe them, as well as we can create a very quick barkeep that we can name Riva, that is kind of a avant-garde, almost regal-esque type of character. She protects the sickly as well as tries to take in refugees that may have been sought out from other cities, seeking refuge after the wars have broken out. On the third one, we can also craft the Baron's kind of top advisor who might be leading the town in dubious matters, and that we can design someone like Vizier Nagal. With someone like Vizier Nagal, we can make it to where potentially not only is he a militaristic advisor, he has some dark and magical powers. He's able to summon the dark legions of the Nether, and in with them they will bring great doom and destruction. Or at least Riva thinks so. And with that, we have 3 fleshed out characters. And again, not going into too detail, we can apply the rule of 3 with all of them and take 3 quick notes, as we did with Baron Aelin. And now we have a cohesive town to send our players into to function with. As you can see off of these steps, we've created... We've created almost a functional town for our players to run in. And you can almost let your players loose. The last thing you're going to need is to just create a small hook. What happens? Biggest thing I can say is try not to force your players together in the early things or early parts of the game. What I would generally suggest is to find a uniting circumstance that brings them together. There's always going to be chaotic elements in the first session, even with veteran players or people who've been playing together for a long time. So sometimes I found that it's better just to almost have them congregate in the same area and then have something small break out, like a goblin ninja appears and tries to assassinate someone, and now everybody has to fight. You have your typical bar brawl that breaks out. Or maybe the guards thinks that this group that's hanging out has stolen one of their badges for free food. And then they try to hunt them down and kill them, because food's pretty important. But that's just a few little threads that you can go off of, and you can see with creating small things like that you can create small hooks and a deeper adventure for your players to go in. As you continue to go on and progress your story, you're going to sit and find out that your players are going to travel out further, and then with these different quests that you elaborate together and different NPCs that might be traveling out on their own adventures are slowly going to create and populate more of your world. So that takes a lot of legwork out of it for us as DMs by just making this a group storytelling adventure instead of just writing overly detailed notes. The biggest thing I can say is that people play this game as a cohesive storytelling element. No one wants to sit here and listen to massively hour-long descriptions of battles, fights, and screams. While people do enjoy descriptions and especially the small cutscenes, at the end of the day, players want to feel involved in what's going on because that's what's going to keep them emotionally attached. Players want to have a say in what goes on as well as help create a little bit of the world. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to pass the DM torch over to people at all times to help create the world, but be open to listen to certain things your players are saying and run with. You know, even if you're against certain things, there's always a way to tie it in. If a player comes out of left field in the second week and starts ranting on and on about Benjamin, and you have to sit there and keep telling them that Benjamin doesn't exist, well, instead of doing that, why not make Benjamin a person that's in the world as an NPC with them? And then you can bring your own way. You can make Benjamin its own thing. You can give them a contentious relationship where maybe Benjamin hates them. Maybe Benjamin's poor and needs help. You can make that a story plot line or tie. And then that's also a cool thing for your player because they feel like they're adding something to the storyline, as well as it's a lot easier to be attached to someone like Benjamin than, say, Gobo the Goblin that's, been trying to stick around to the party for 3 weeks as a DM NPC that no one wants to run with. Sometimes it's easy to run with what your players suggest, and you can tweak their things a little bit of their suggestions and make it your own, and then that makes it fun for everybody. So don't be afraid to run with things a little bit, and sometimes work with some of your players' weird offhand things. Obviously, you can nerf things a little bit and keep it in balance, but in general, our job as DMs isn't saying no. And a lot of times we forget that our players can really help with world building. So, again, big tip, and I'll wrap this up again, guys. Keep it simple. Start small. Create a town that's there, and just try to function off of your own town. Remember that this is a storytelling cooperative, and let your players have a bit of tell in what's going on in your story. And at the end of the day, don't stress over too much or try to add too much into your world. Keep it simple, stupid. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to try to put out more content like this. If you have any suggestions or anything else, we're always happy to supply the content. You're always welcome to call, message the store, or stop in and check us out. We always love you guys having here. And again, thanks for having me.